Welcome to Technology and Education Today. I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford, and we are coming to you from the University of Houston, Clear Lake in Houston, Texas, USA!
And today we are discussing whether instructional designers have to be subject matter experts in the area for which they are providing the design. Did I say that right?
I thought it was well said, yes, absolutely.
What do you think? Because there seems to be a lot of controversy about this.
I say yes. It's a great idea. On the other hand, someone who is an instructional designer, their area of expertise, I would imagine, should be instructional design. Therefore, a subject matter expert in whatever field in which you're focusing upon should be an added component. And I understand the whole way that people speak and communicate within different fields is totally different. It's also significantly different within instructional design and technology fields, depending upon what area of expertise you're focusing in upon. We have different labels, we have different terminology. I get it. But that doesn't mean that an instructional designer, it's a positive, it may be necessary in some situations, but it's not sufficient to expect an instructional designer to have subject matter expertise in that specific field. Nice, lovely, wonderful, but that's not where their talent lies. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
Well,
are you going to take the other side, or are you going to agree with me?
I don't know. I don't know whether I should agree with you or not, because I can see where we train people and other universities train people to be instructional designers, and being an instructional designer has its own subject matter expertise attached to it, of course.
Absolutely.
And for many areas, for instance, if you were going to be an instructional designer for a course that's taught in the humanities in a high school or in a college, I could see that you would not necessarily have to be an expert in that area because the course is understandable. It's not using very many technical terms, at least not as many technical terms as a course in electrical engineering might use, for instance.
Absolutely. But working with our students who come from all different realms, all different areas of expertise, and are interested in our field, recognizing the differences, just speaking with people about instructional design and how one might frame a training or a learning opportunity, it's different depending upon what their areas of expertise are, where they're coming from, what their thought processes are. A mathematician, I can't say for every single person whose area of expertise is mathematics, but the vast majority of mathematicians with whom I've worked are very linear and behaviorist in design. There's no interest in going beyond the behaviorist realm towards maybe a more real-world explanation of the geography, looking at triangles within the real world, figuring out how to measure triangles within the real world. Formulas, what do formulas mean? It's a formula. You fill in the blanks and you get your outcome. Brilliant for someone who understands and cares to know all the intricacies of a formula. And okay, I liked math when I was in school, nifty cool, but I need to know why. And someone who loves the formulas and loves every aspect of mathematics may not get that many learners aren't that into it and need further explanation and further framing of that information for them.
But how does the instructional designer know what questions to ask if that instructional designer is involved with a mathematician who is dealing with relatively high-level concepts? I mean, triangles is one thing, but if you can get into certain levels of applied mathematics where the concepts are very difficult to understand, and hence if you wanted to explain them to somebody, would you not need a certain basic area of expertise in the field of mathematics, and within that specialty that's being taught?
Well, that's an interesting idea. On the other hand, why do we have subject matter expertise persons, SMEs, who are working with the instructional designers if they're not bringing that game to the team? If they're not bringing their skill sets into the team?
They are bringing their skill sets, but
so explain to me, if subject matter experts are bringing their expertise into the instructional design process, then why do the instructional designers need to be subject matter experts in that realm as well? Why is there
They
not
need-
a trade-off? Why is the professional?
I would suspect that the work would go faster if the instructional designer had a basic knowledge of the subject matter that is being taught, or that they need to explain, that's being provided by the subject matter expert. Because if without that knowledge, the subject matter expert now has to spend additional time bringing the instructional designer
Up to speed.
up to speed.
And they
Now,
may be talking in circles
and in
around
some,
each other.
yes, and in some areas, the value of the subject matter expert in terms of dollar value and time value may be very expensive, and to spend that bringing a designer up to speed, it might not be the most cost efficient or cost effective method of that cost beneficial method
Return on investment.
of that person's use, which is interesting because I know this discussion has been going on for some time within the instructional design field, and as we're talking now, I'm thinking, well, does this open the door for an entirely new type of instructional designer, or recruiting students from specific fields rather just in general to be instructional designers?
Sure.
So that you might have master's level mathematicians or engineers or filmmakers or whatever.
May
whatever
have
it is.
additional talent in the realm of instructional design.
Or may decide that, well, no, I don't really want to do this type of work. I would rather be part of a training unit and
And they have
and
skills
design.
within that realm. It's not just, well, I want to change my job and I want to be an instructional designer because I already have the subject matter expertise. It doesn't work like that. You have to have the skill sets and the talent associated with instructional design
Well, yes, they have to
processes.
have the skill sets, and where would they get those skill sets? Why, at schools that provide instructional development training,
But at the
instructional
same
design
time,
training.
one must consider when we're talking about whether an instructional designer must have subject matter expertise in every single realm in which they're working, why are the instructional designers there in the first place? One might suggest from a needs analysis that there is an issue that needs to be addressed that is not already addressed by the subject matter experts, by the trainers that are already in place.
Yes, the training is very poor.
Perhaps. So if you need and if you want to implement an instructional designer within whatever training issues, instructional issues you may have, why would you want someone who already buys into whatever issues may already be inherent within that situation? Why not bring in someone who does not have the same background and the same, one might suggest, issues that are occurring through whatever needs analysis has been implemented and the outcomes achieved? When you recognize that there are issues, you need an instructional designer to help support whatever has been occurring, one would suggest. So pulling in subject matter experts, brilliant move. Obviously, these people know what they're talking about. Pulling in the trainers, they know their audience. Pulling in an instructional designer, it's because of their instructional design skill sets. It's great if they happen to know more about the area of expertise in which they're designing the instruction. It's not necessary.
No, it's not necessary, but I think it's more time consuming.
Well,
And
it would
I can
enhance the product, absolutely.
I think I can see a scenario, and I think this is probably in practice in some companies, where you have a company, let's say an aircraft company like Boeing, where it might maintain its own training department, or perhaps it contracts out with another group to do training, but the instructional designers, because they work with one company and they're working with particular types of engineers, are at least given basic training in that type of engineering, or have former engineers who they're doing instructional design work. And the same thing is true, by the way, for trainers that you mentioned. While once the curriculum is together, while anybody can then deliver that curriculum, it would take a trainer who is knowledgeable about that curriculum to be, if it's a face-to-face course, to accurately answer questions that come up. Right. So that trainer needs a well-designed course, but the trainer also needs to know what he or she is talking about. I think this all wraps into one big package.
Sure. And having a professional outlook is vastly important. But consider that within the instructional design process, many people forget the analysis phase and the relationships that need to be built, nurtured between all of the team members involved. So just coming in and saying, this is the way we're going to do it as an instructional designer, what kind of idiot are you? That's not the way a team works. That's not professional. Developing relationships with the subject matter experts and the trainers and whomever else are involved, some people in the audience, to figure out what the needs are, what is occurring, as well as looking at what is desired, what is the desired outcome, as well as what's currently occurring and how to bridge that gap more appropriately.
Well, certainly the instructional designer has to have a lot of tact and diplomacy and ability.
So I understand what you're saying about instructional design and subject matter expertise, and that all makes sense, and the little triangle about quality, time, and effort, and how that all works together. I understand why we would be significantly heightening the quality standard and lessening the time component, and potentially lessening the monetary allocation associated with developing the training through the use of an instructional designer who already has a subject matter expertise. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But it's not necessarily necessary.
It's not necessarily necessary.
Right.
It's not,
A strong instructional designer, someone with true talent within that field and an ability to work with
Yes,
other people to
that-
develop a product
that-
may be just as potentially strong as someone who already has an understanding in the field. Perhaps the return on investment may be a little stronger.
I agree that person potentially could produce a very good product. I maintain that if you already have expertise in that field and have on top of that been trained in instructional design
And have a talent for instructional design.
and that goes without saying,
Then why did I say it?
I don't know. then you save a lot of time. At any rate, I'm going to cut you off here because we have reached the end of another show of Technology and Education Today. I'm Richard Smith.
I'm Caroline Crawford, and we are coming to you from the University of Houston, Clear Lake in Houston, Texas, USA. Bye!